have statements from our principals to be given first by Secretary Pete Hegseth, to be followed by Secretary Gilberto Jr. Secretary Hegseth, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon. Mr. Secretary, thank you for an incredibly productive afternoon. We're really glad to be here in Manila with Secretary Teodoro on my first trip as the Secretary of Defense in the Indo-Pacific. You know this, the audience knows this, the United States has been fighting shoulder to shoulder with the Philippines since World War II. Our partnership not only continues today, but we are doubling down on that partnership. And our ironclad alliance has never been stronger. This morning, I also had a chance to meet with President Marcos. And Secretary Teodoro and I just had as I described, very productive discussion about how to not just continue, but accelerate the progress in U.S.-Philippines alliance. We agreed on the next steps to reestablish, and that's key, reestablish deterrence in the Indo-Pacific region. These efforts build on an ongoing $500 million commitment in foreign military financing and other security assistance to support the Philippines' military modernization. First, we agreed that the United States will deploy additional advanced capabilities to the Philippines. This includes using the NMESIS anti-ship missile system and highly capable unmanned surface vehicles in exercise Balikatan this April. These systems will enable U.S. forces and the armed forces of the Philippines to train together on using advanced capabilities to defend the Philippines' sovereignty. Second, to enhance interoperability for high-end operations, we agreed to conduct bilateral Special Operation Forces training in the Batanes Islands. Did I get that right? Batanes, Islands. Special Forces training together. Third, Secretary Teodoro and I agreed to prioritize bilateral defense industrial cooperation, which is critical. So today we published a joint statement outlining our priority areas for cooperation. This includes co-producing unmanned systems and increasing combined logistics support. I was just in Guam before I came here. We can talk about big systems and advanced technologies, but if you don't have logistics support, I see the folks who run militaries and run formations, you need logistics support to actually operate and advance forward. These initiatives will help us share burdens and promote a more comprehensive partnership. We intend for these efforts to boost both of our economies and strengthen supply chain resilience. And finally, we agreed to launch a bilateral cyber campaign. We're going to work together to reduce cyber vulnerabilities across our alliance, and increasing cybersecurity will allow even more advanced operational cooperation. The challenges we face require that kind of team effort. But I'll tell you this, those aspects are just the beginning. We had our meeting this morning, we had a meeting with the President, we had a meeting in here, we had private meetings as well. I can assure you, and I can assure all those watching, this is just the beginning of what will continue to be an incredibly fruitful alliance. So together we'll encourage our other partners and allies in the region to step up their efforts and their cooperation to increase defense capabilities and strengthen deterrence. We have already set a robust agenda for the next few years. Our staff and both of us are going to remain actively engaged. It reflects the strength, as I said, of our ironclad alliance, particularly in the face of communist China's aggression in the region. And our partnership demonstrates our commitment to peace and security in the Indo-Pacific. As our president, who sends his greeting, President Donald Trump talks about often and demonstrates, we will achieve peace through strength. We do not seek war. We seek peace, but those who long for peace must prepare for war. And we stand united shoulder to shoulder. So, Gibo, if I may, you can call me Pete anytime you want. Thank you for hosting us today and for making great progress alongside us. I look forward to working closely with you to solidify that peace through strength. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Secretary Hegseth, sir. We now invite Secretary Teodoro to give his statement.
We thank the Honorable Secretary Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense of the United States, for his momentous visit to the Philippines. It is an honor for the Philippines to host Secretary Hegseth's first visit to Asia during his first trip to the Indo-Pacific. This signifies how important our bilateral alliance with our only treaty partner, the United States, is, and we are gratified by the importance placed on the stability and enhancement of this relationship as a linchpin of securing peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. We are grateful for the enduring support of the United States, including the State Department's issuance of a waiver, in part, in no small way, through the efforts of Secretary Hegseth and the rest of the team, for a waiver of foreign military financing for the Philippines. We believe these engagements are crucial and need to be enhanced in order for there, as Secretary Hegseth to put it, to be a re-establishment of effective deterrence against unwanted and malign influences that affect the stability not only of the Indo-Pacific, but of the whole world. And as Secretary Hegseth said, we are going to work very closely, not only with our treaty ally, but with other like-minded partners in re-establishing deterrence. This will mean increased interoperational activities, joint exercises, realistic training in a myriad of scenarios to mirror what may be possible in the future, God forbid. However, we must be prepared to answer and to meet and even to deter any possibility in the future for our mutual defense and the defense of freedom and international law. During our discussions, we discussed the enhancement of the quality of Philippine investments in strategic basing, in capability upgrades, in the skill sets of our fighting men, women, and our civilian personnel to complement the comprehensive archipelagic defense concept, which has in its underpinnings not only the Philippine Constitution, but international law. The deployment of the NMESIS and other unmanned surface vehicles will hasten the introduction of these technologies into the vista of the Philippine Armed Forces and will train our troops to train for higher technological capabilities that we need for effective deterrence in the future. The Philippines is prepared and is in fact taking a more active role in rallying our other allies and like-minded nations to resist any attempt to change international law by acquiescence or a fait accompli in the South China Sea. The number of status of visiting forces agreements that we are entering into is, for the rules-based international order, is proof of this. Because of the increased interoperational activities, we expect increased rotational presence of like-minded and allied troops in the Philippines. With our strategic basing initiative, we will also expect a heightened tempo of the Philippine Armed Force for external and territorial defense to put in our share of deterrence. And we will also expect a hastening of our capability upgrades and our logistical support facilities to support deterrence. And deterrence comes also with synergy with humanitarian assistance and disaster response, because natural calamities hit us the hardest at this time, particularly in the Philippines, which is one of the most vulnerable countries in the world. We will enhance our current EDCA locations, and we will make improvements. Mind you, these are Philippine bases of which we have to invest in. We will enhance them for logistical support. We have talked about establishing a sustainable, effective, and business case focused defense industrial base, which suits our national interests and advances our economic, defense, and other cooperative resilience activities, which are of benefit not only to each one's economy, but on partnerships and synergies, so that there can be a multiplier effect on the enhancements to different sectors of our societies, of both our peoples. As we know, the relationship between the Philippines and the United States is not unipolar. It is multipolar. And the most important thing are people-to-people exchanges, but also commerce, defense, education, language, and the NBA. This initiative will support the self-reliance defense program of the Philippines and other initiatives of the United States government. On cybersecurity cooperation, as rightly said by Secretary Hegseth, we need to work hand in hand to develop resilience and security of our cybersecurity networks. When we work in partnerships, we need to keep those flows of information secure. We need to keep our own operations secure. And we need to tap each other's expertise, best practices, and hardware in order to secure our cyber systems. And this is not a one-stop deal. It goes on and on as threats evolve. So therefore, we are firming up our shop for IT and for cyber to work hand in hand with our treaty partner for mutual resilience and enhancements. In closing, I would like to categorically state that what is at stake in our unilateral and bilateral activities is not merely the security of either the United States or of the Philippines. We are facing a common threat, which now is the overreach of the Communist Party of China. So the Indo-Pacific, the rule of international law, freedom of navigation, and individual personal freedoms are what are at stake here. Therefore, as President Marcos has stated, U.S. leadership is essential to the continuing peace and stability of the Indo-Pacific. We look forward to the outcomes on the working levels of what we have agreed to and discussed here during our meeting, especially as we mark this year the 80th anniversary next year of Philippine-U.S. ties in 2026. Once again, we are very thankful for the visit of Secretary Pete, who has not only built rapport with the Department of National Defense, but with the PT session with our troops, he has truly made his mark. Thank you for your visit, Secretary Pete.
Thank you very much, Secretary Teodoro, sir. We will now begin our question and answer portion. I now invite our co-moderator this afternoon, Mr. Sean Parnell, DOD spokesperson, to call the name of the first journalist.
Well, thank you. Bill from the Washington Times.
Hi. Bill Gertz with the Washington Times. China is waging aggressive gray zone warfare in the South China Sea. Will the Trump administration order the Navy's 7th Fleet to provide a greater enduring naval presence in the South China Sea, considering the Biden administration failed to provide visible support there to a key U.S. ally, the Philippines?
Well, Bill, it's a great question. You're right. What we're dealing with right now is many years of deferred maintenance, of weakness, that we need to reestablish strength and deterrence in multiple places around the globe, but pertinently today for this region. There was a lot of talk about shifting, a lot of talk about emphasis on the Indo-Pacific, a lot of talk about allies. What the Trump administration will do is deliver, is truly prioritize and shift to this region of the world in a way that is unprecedented to match the threats of the future, with a recognition that for the 21st century to be a free century, America needs to stand alongside our allies and partners, shoulder to shoulder. Today it's the Philippines, tomorrow it's Japan, it will be Australia and South Korea and other nations in this part of the world, where together, by, with, and through, we will establish the deterrence necessary to prevent war. You mentioned the 7th Fleet. It's not my job to determine where the 7th Fleet goes. I defer to Admiral Paparo and his war plans, real war plans. Admiral Paparo understands the situation, understands the geographic significance, understands the urgency, and is prepared to work with those in the region to ensure we are leaning forward in our posture, not waiting for events to develop, not retrograding to places further from the front, but deploying capabilities forward, posturing and creating dynamics and strategic dilemmas for the Communist Chinese that help them reconsider whether or not violence or action is something they want to undertake. Again, President Trump is a peacemaker. President Trump seeks peace. That's my message here as well. But in order to bring that peace, we will be strong. Our allies will know we stand with them. Our admirals are prepared and they will be properly equipped. We're rebuilding our military under President Trump, reviving that warrior ethos across the force. You know, I look out at the men and women of our military, many of which I did PT with this morning, younger and more fit than their secretary. And I see mechanics, I see special operators, I see lawyers, I see fuelers, I see pilots, I see sailors, all with different jobs. But what I ultimately see are warriors in the profession of arms, here deployed forward with our allies, postured and prepared to deter war. So Admiral Paparo is exactly where we need him to be, with contingencies laid in place, and we will be positioned to stand with our partners, hopefully to prevent any conflict at all.
We now call on Mr. Chad Williams of Agence France Presse to ask his question.
Thank you. This is for Secretary Hegseth. You gave a speech last month at a Pentagon town hall where you specifically talked at length about accountability. And I'm wondering, including even in the smallest things you said, and I'm wondering if now, as we have the Senate Armed Forces Committee asking for a report into the signal controversy, if you feel, as the leader of the Defense Department, you have any level of responsibility for what Marco Rubio and some other people have called a mistake.
Thank you for the question. I'm responsible for ensuring that our department is prepared and ready to deter and defeat our enemies. And I'm quite proud of what our forces in CENTCOM did on that initial series of very effective and devastating strikes and the ongoing campaign that we are undertaking, because that is, again, on the backs of 4 years of deferred maintenance and failure and weakness of the Biden administration, we are reestablishing deterrence. And as the leader of that department, my job is to advise and work alongside the President and then work with my fellow cabinet members to ensure that we're operationalizing in every way possible, reestablishing that deterrence. So we will ensure the freedom of navigation returns to that part of the world, just as, pertinent to our conversation today, freedom of navigation is something the Philippines experiences in the South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea. It's something we take very seriously.
So we'll go with Kazu next.
Thank you so much for having us today. So I have a question for Secretary Hegseth. How do you evaluate the trilateral cooperation between the U.S., the Philippines, and Japan in deterring China? And do you intend to take a leadership of it?
Well, thank you for the question. I'd love to have the Secretary answer as well. As he mentioned, this is not just country-to-country bilateral cooperation. This is trilateral. It's multilateral. The broader our alliance, the better. The more security cooperation, the better. The more interoperability, the better. The more contingencies, the better. Again, the more strategic dilemmas for our adversaries, the better. And so we're here in the Philippines to strengthen that partnership. We'll be in Japan to do the same. I believe as we speak, all three countries are sailing together right now in the region. So we have that kind of security cooperation happening right now with our navies at sea, sending those signals of cooperation. And I know President Trump values greatly the ability to bring together an alliance as opposed to just unilateral action, which is never as effective. But I would defer to the Secretary's thoughts as well.
Well, thank you very much, Secretary Hegseth. The trilateral cooperation has been going at a very fast pace. As a matter of fact, we also, aside from the multilateral cooperative activity right now ongoing, Japan has just announced its inauguration of the Joint Operational Command under General Nagumo, which is at the operational level a result of our trilateral partnership. A lot of activities are ongoing, and we are merging and meshing these capabilities together with Australia at a speed which we have not seen in a long time.
For the last question, we'll have J.P. Soriano of GMA News.
Secretary Teodoro, Secretary Hegseth, welcome to Manila. Can you confirm the current status and estimated arrival date for the deployment of the mid-range capability Typhoon missile from the Indo-Pacific to the Philippines? And since Secretary Teodoro mentioned EDCA, Secretary Hegseth, how many more EDCA sites should Manila consider establishing in the Philippines, and how soon could that expansion take place? Additionally, and last question, how do you respond to China's warning regarding military cooperation with Manila, particularly their assertion to the Philippine government that, and I quote Chinese MOFA, nothing good could come from opening the door to a predator? Thank you.
Go ahead. On the EDCA sites, as I stated earlier, that they will remain as such, and enhanced development will be taken thereon. On the medium-range capabilities, we will neither confirm nor deny any deployments. We will train as we see fit, and the Philippine Armed Forces will equip as it sees fit. And lastly, let the facts speak for themselves. I mean, where did the quote come from on the predator thing? Chinese MOFA. I think their worldview is really quite limited. That's why the robotic quality of their statements. I think that characterizing people who do not appropriate parts of the South China Sea as their own, as they do the 10-dash line, speaks loudly of themselves rather than others. And there was a collatilla to that, I believe, that the Philippines should not be a mouthpiece of any other country. You know, that's once again the product of a limited worldview, of a closed society. We don't practice propaganda in this country. We practice free speech and democracy. So the Philippines is not a mouthpiece, unlike they themselves, who are mouthpieces of Xi Jinping thought. You know, the problem is, you will hear me, the United States will hear me, Filipinos will hear me, but 1 billion or more Chinese won't get to hear what I said.
Powerful words. I will just add two things. There's a long line of countries in the past who have attempted to test U.S. resolve. We are resolved at this time, at this moment, to work with our partners, to reestablish the warrior ethos, to rebuild our military and reestablish deterrence, and come alongside our allies and partners, first and foremost, in this region. And then I also, on behalf of the American people, want to thank the people of the Philippines. I want to thank you for your friendship. I want to thank you for your partnership. I want to thank you for your love of our country and our of yours. It is a long, enduring friendship and partnership. So much so that myself and my team will be heading to the U.S. military cemetery here in the Philippines later on today. Which, shame on me, I knew there was a large one here. I didn't know it was the largest outside of the United States U.S. service member graveyard in the world. What a demonstration of the sacrifice America has been willing to make over decades, the resolve that generations of Americans have been willing to show for the cause of freedom. We don't seek intervention. President Trump has made it clear we don't seek war. We don't seek to nation build. We don't seek to use chess pieces and move them around the board. All we seek is peace. All we seek is freedom and cooperation and mutual benefit. And we find that in friends like our friends in the Philippines. But do not mistake our friendship. Do not mistake our belief in peace and our desire for peace for a lack of resolve. Too many have. And America still stands strong today and will continue into the future. So I want to thank you all.
Thank you very much, sirs. That ends our press conference. I now invite our two secretaries to stand together in front of the podium for our final video and photo opportunity. Thank you very much, sirs. I'd like to ask everyone to kindly stay in their seats until our two principals have left the venue, along with the entourages, please.